Welcome to the second episode of Mind Matters, where we will be discussing matters of the mind because the mind matters. I'm Altima Ray Elvis, and I am thankful that you have decided to be a part of my mindset journey. Last week, we talked about the importance of mindset, and we spoke about our default mode of thinking, and that if that default mode of thinking is negative, then that mindset needs to change. So through I gave you some homework for those of you who were here last week, or those of you who would have watched the live last week, to speak positive affirmations to yourselves. Let me know in the chat whether or not this is something that you've done and how it has worked out for you, how it's going. Is it something that you find difficult? Do you find it helpful? Is it creating some positivity in your life? Do you feel as though it is changing your mindset? Let me know in the chat and we will get started. All right. So this week we are, just a sec. There we go. Trying something new again this week. All right, here we go. Okay, so for the next 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, thereabout, I'm going to be talking about the myths and misconceptions of the mind and mindset. So come with me, continue with me on this journey, and let's find out what some of these myths are and how we can get rid of these myths that affect or that we think about our minds. The first one is, I cannot change the way I think. Romans chapter 12 verse 2 tells us that we're not supposed to be conformed to this world, but to be transformed by the renewing of our minds, that we may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Which means what? Which means that we can change the way we think. Also, Philippians 4 verse 8 says, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any praise, think on these things. So, not only does the Bible tell us that we can change our mindset, but the Bible also tells us that we're supposed to be thinking about positive things, things that are good, things that can influence us in a positive way. And that is because what we think about affects our feelings. And we know that our feelings influence our behavior. So if we're constantly worrying about our fears, and if we're constantly worrying about we're just constantly worrying, we're going to be overwhelmed. And if you're just a rigid person who believes that things are supposed to constantly be perfect, then you're going to tend to resist change. And guess what? With this type of mindset, you are going to miss out on opportunities. As humans, we can change the quality of our lives by changing the attitudes of our minds. Myth number 2, my mind does not need exercise. We all know that our bodies need exercise. We go to the gym, we go for walks, we go for a jog, we do workouts at home, whether from YouTube or we sign up to some online exercise program. But our minds also need exercise. And one of the ways of doing this is through meditation. And meditation can come in two different ways. The formal, which is what we usually picture when we talk about meditation, not medication, meditation. All right. When we talk about meditation, we usually think about the monks and them sitting down with their legs crossed and their hands up and their eyes closed, and they're drifted off into some deep trance. That is what we usually think of when we think of meditation. That is formal meditation. But we also have informal meditation, which is just focusing on, what's happening in that moment. And that can be done by just taking breaks. All right, taking breaks, going, sipping some tea, going out with some friends, reading a book, eating. These are some ways that we can give ourselves that mental break so that we can give our brains that relaxation, that exercise, and not just exercise, but recovery. Because when we're constantly going, and especially persons who are in leadership position like myself, you tend to the brain tends to work a little harder because you're making decisions not just for yourself, but that will impact a significant amount of people, and that's a lot of pressure. So you are going to need that break. All right. So meditate. As I said, exercise, hang out with your friends. And what this does is it improves your blood pressure. It lowers your blood pressure. It improves your heart rate. It helps with your breathing. It helps with brain waves, and it decreases your metabolism. I have a high metabolism, so when I'm constantly going, it's hard for me to fall asleep in the night because my brain is still going at 100 miles per hour. So, that meditation, that taking that break helps you with sleep as well. All right, so myth number 3. We're on number 3. I have 8 of them today, and I may give you a bonus one, which may make it 9. All right, number 3. Vulnerability is weakness. This one here is one that I am still working on with me, because being vulnerable, we see it as weakness, but it actually is not. Persons who make themselves vulnerable have better relationships. They have better emotional response to things. They are less stressed. So being vulnerable is not a weakness. All right. We tend to shy away from being vulnerable because we are afraid of failing. We're afraid of making mistakes. We're afraid of taking risks. We don't want to own up to mistakes because we're afraid of condemnation or we're afraid of failure. This is unfair to us. It's unfair to you. It's unfair to me to place that burden on ourselves, because we all know that we're not perfect. So trying to be perfect, trying to live up to persons' expectations who expect us to be perfect is too much of a burden for us. So vulnerability is not a weakness. Studies actually show that persons who are open, they have increased life satisfaction, they have reduced stress, and they have deeper connection with others. So it is proven that, not just me saying it, but research shows that vulnerability is not a weakness. So stop worrying about, what people think about you. I know it's easier said than done. So, don't worry about being perfect. Nobody is perfect. And stop holding yourself up to these impossible, or should I say, we should stop holding ourselves up to these impossible ideas. And because when we do this, it is easier for us to give up because it's harder for us to meet that expectation of ourselves when we hold ourselves to these impossible ideals. Myth number 4. I'm either good at it or I am not. Now, as children, when we're growing up, and even us as parents, we sometimes tend to praise our children for their intelligence and their talents, and not necessarily for their efforts and their work ethics. What this does, it stops them or hinders them from being from improving, because now they're looking at, okay, I'm already good at this, so I don't need to work hard at it. I don't need to do anything else because I'm already good at this. So this is something we want to not do. We want to make sure that when we're praising our children, we're praising them for their efforts and their work ethics, and not necessarily for their intelligence and things that they're naturally good at. All right. So with the fixed mindset, we're going to look at two different types of mindset, and this is something we're going to look deeper into next week: the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. Now, with the fixed mindset, these are persons who believe that, they're stuck in their ways, they can't change. They look at intelligence instead of trying to improve. But the growth mindset persons believe that they are constantly learning, and the learning never stops. All right, so that is something we're going to dig deeper into next week. But when you put your effort into something, whether you are good at it now or not, when you put your effort into it, it allows you to improve. Michael Jordan, when he was in high school, was kicked off the basketball team because they said that he lacked skill. But what he did, he went and he worked on the skill. And, everybody knows Michael Jordan now as one of the best basketball players who ever lived. So, you not because you're not good at it now means that is always going to be that way. Myth number 5: I'm not negative, I'm practical. Have you ever heard this before? Have you ever heard someone say, I'm not negative, I'm just being practical? As soon as an idea pops up or something, they knock it down right away, and they give you the negative right away. And it's never a good feedback from that particular person. If that is the way you think, then that is not a good mindset to have. Yes, it's good to analyze. It is good to look at things, whether it's good and bad. You do that. But when it's constantly negative, and before you even look at anything, it's already shut down. Say you decide, okay, you come into a meeting and you said, okay, we need to raise $10,000, and somebody just jumps up and say, oh, we can't do that. You didn't say how long it's gonna take. You didn't say who you had to go to get it. You didn't give any specifics, but already you're knocked down. That idea is just knocked down. So that person is not being practical. That person is being negative. So they never see the glass as half full. It's always half empty. So they're always seeing what's going to go wrong instead of what can actually go right. Now, myth number 6: this mindset thing does not work. That's a myth. Because if it didn't work, the Bible wouldn't tell you to change your mindset. It wouldn't tell you to change the way you think. All right, now let's look at some of the persons who have changed their mindset and have become extraordinary in their own areas of expertise. We already talked about Michael Jordan and what he did and how he took basketball to another level. We can look at Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey she was fired from being a reporter because she was said to be unfit for TV, but yet now she's one of the most well-known TV personnels, talk show hosts. She was one of the first female black billionaires. And not only that, but she went through a rough childhood where she was abused. So she went through all of this, but yet because of her mindset, she was able to succeed in her area of expertise. Just look at one more. J.K. Rowling. A lot of you know about Harry Potter. You probably don't know who wrote the books, but J.K. Rowling wrote the books Harry Potter. And when she wrote, first of all, she was unemployed, she was divorced, and she raised her daughter on Social Security checks, all right, while writing the books. And after she wrote the books, they were rejected 12 times by the publishers. So if you have never failed, you have never tried anything new. All right, now this brings us to myth number 7, which talks about having a positive mindset means never giving up. Is this true? If you have a positive mindset, that means you're never supposed to give up. I don't think so. All right. If there are times when you are going to have to decide, okay, enough is enough, or I don't think I'm supposed to do this any longer, or I've tried hard enough with this. You have to know your own effort. You have to know your limitations. You have to know your boundaries. But a lot of persons decide that, they're not going to quit, not because they don't feel as though they have enough, but because of their egos. They don't want to admit defeat. They don't want to admit that, things didn't work out. They're persons who have had businesses that if they didn't quit, all they would do is get themselves into more debt. So you have to know when to call it quits. You have to know when to stop, when enough is enough. And our last and final myth, which is one that I think is the most important, and one that I think that persons just they or we really take this one to heart when it comes on to challenges. Myth number 8 says adversity is always bad. Now, this is not the case. If there weren't any challenges, if there weren't any trials, if there weren't any adversities, then there would not be any growth. All right? No one likes adversity. No one likes to feel hurt. No one likes the feeling of anger and of sadness when we go through challenges and trials. No, nobody likes that. I definitely don't like feeling those feelings. But what we have to do, instead of looking at our adversities or our challenges as as just something that is so negative, we have to try to find the positive in it, which means that every challenge we go through, we should try and find a lesson in it. Every loss is a lesson. All right, every loss is a lesson. You have to look at what is it that I can learn from this? Yes, I'm going through this. Yes, it hurts. But what is it that God is trying to show me through this? What is it that God wants me to learn from this? And the sooner you do this, the sooner you'll see you getting through this, because nothing lasts forever. It has to end at some point. All right, diamonds are formed under pressure. Gold and silver, in order to be pure, are cured at the highest temperature, not just once, 2 and 3 times. All right, so persons don't want to go through this. Persons want life to just be, smooth going and everything is okay. Every day, everything is okay. If life is okay every single day without any challenges, then you would not grow. You won't see any growth. Not in any part of your life. If everything in your life is okay every single day, then you won't see any growth. So you have to step out of your comfort zone every now and then. You have to put yourself in position where you are uncomfortable just so that you can grow. If you run away from everything that makes you uncomfortable, then you're not going to see growth. James chapter 1 verses 2 to 4 tells us to consider this pure joy when we go through trials. All right, because what it does, it's testing your faith. And in testing your faith, it produces perseverance. And perseverance, when it is finished, shows that you're mature and that you're complete and that you're not lacking anything. So the Bible even tells us when we go through trials, we're supposed to count it all joy. It's the hardest thing to do in the world when you're going through the loss of a loved one, or you're going through a divorce or financial struggles, to count it all joy. It's not easy. But the Bible says this is what we're supposed to do. All right? We're supposed to count it all joy. And that is a mindset change. Because when you start looking at the positive in these things, then it becomes easier to deal with these challenges and adversities. And my bonus myth for you today is all I have to do is think about it, believe it, and it will happen. Faith without works is dead. That's all I'm going to say on that one, because I have another episode that's going to talk just about that one. All right. So that's my bonus one. Faith without works is dead. Not because you think about it means that it's going to happen. You have to put in the work. All right. Faith without works is dead. You must put that work in. All right. So last week I asked you to go through to do positive affirmations daily and to just speak those to yourself. I don't want you to stop that this week. I want you to do that as well. So you're going to do your positive affirmations daily. But what I want you to add to that is to take brain breaks. All right? Take brain breaks. Take some time to meditate, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, however long you need to refresh your brain, to rejuvenate your brain so your brain can relax, so that it can get back into where it needs to be to function properly. All right? So this week, you're going to say your positive affirmations, and you're also going to ensure that you take your brain breaks. Sip some tea, lock yourself in the bathroom if you have a lot of children like me. Take that break. Go out and sit just by yourself and just contemplate the whole moment. Think about the moment and live for that moment. And then allow your brain to relax, allow your brain to recover, and then you get back into what it is that you need to get back into as far as your brain and thinking is concerned. All right, thank you so much for logging on today. Let me know in the comments if there are any topics that you want me to look at, any issues that you're having that you want me to help deal with. I have a background in counseling and education. So, and whatever it is, I'll do my research and ensure that I come to you informed and giving you the correct information. All right. Thank you so much for logging on this week. And I will see you next week when we will talk about the fixed and growth mindset. Are we going to dig deeper into that to see where we are on those two mindsets? Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your week, and may God continue to bless each and every one of you and your families. Remember, change your mindset, change your lives. What's on your mind?